Lobster hunting and trapping begins when the sky is still foggy. Fishermen leave port before nightfall, on small boats loaded with tightly woven iron traps, covered with fresh bait, usually mackerel, herring or mackerel heads, that emit an attractive scent that wafts through the salt water. They move far from shore, looking for reefs, crevices or coral reefs where lobsters often hide to live and hunt. Lobster trapping requires experience and a deep understanding of the sea. Each trap is tied to a buoy and dropped to a depth of 20 to more than 100 meters. Depending on the lobster species and the season, workers must calculate the wind direction, currents, and even the time of the moon to ensure the trap is not swept away or caught on reefs. When the trap reaches the bottom, they gently pull the rope to secure it and mark the coordinates on a GPS device. Then move on. Dropping hundreds of traps along a line dozens of nautical miles long. Each trip usually lasts for many days. The fishermen have to live in the sea, eat and sleep on the boat, waiting for the ideal time to collect the traps. After about 24 to 48 hours, they begin the harvesting process, the hard but exciting part. As each trap is pulled up, the seawater splashes, and inside, giant lobsters with strong claws, hard shiny shells shining blue or reddish brown, thrash vigorously, making the whole boat come to life. Fishermen use thick gloves to remove each lobster from the net, careful to avoid being pinched by the sharp claws. Those that reach the standard size will be put into a tank of aerated seawater to keep alive, while the small ones are released to preserve the population. The job seems simple but contains countless risks: big waves, strong winds, tangled trap wires. Sometimes even the boat has to withstand the middle of a sudden storm. Each successful lobster catch is the result of skill, strength and relentless perseverance. When they return to shore, the boats are loaded with crates of live lobsters, which can be worth tens of thousands of dollars per trip. The lobsters are then sorted, washed in cold sea water, and stored in storage. Some are exported immediately. Others are taken to high-end restaurants, where they become premium dishes on banquet tables. But behind each lobster is the sweat, adventure, and perseverance of those who make a living from the sea. Lobster trapping is not just a job, but also an art of patience, faith, and experience passed down through generations of fishermen who dare to face the harsh ocean to bring back precious products from the deep once stocked. The lobster processing continues meticulously and rigorously. Fishermen transfer crates of live lobsters ashore, weigh them, record the catch, and then sort them by size, freshness, and species. The large, robust Alaskan lobsters, which can weigh several kilograms, are kept separately in deep, cold salt water tanks to ensure they remain healthy until they are sold. Some small-scale fishermen sell directly to traders at the port, while larger vessels contract with export companies or high-end restaurants. The entire process follows strict standards, as the death or weakening of a lobster can significantly reduce its commercial value. While the bustling trade on shore continues, far out at sea, their fellow fishermen are preparing for a new trip. They clean and repair rusty traps, replace nets, tie buoys, and add new bait. The pieces of fish chosen as bait must be fresh and have a strong fishy smell, because lobsters are attracted by this smell in the darkness at the bottom of the sea. Some people also add a little fish scraps or fish intestines to increase the lure. Their experience has taught them that setting the trap at dusk is the most effective, when lobsters start to leave their burrows to look for food. Under the ocean, lobsters are both gentle and aggressive creatures. During the day, they hide in crevices of rocks, only showing their long whiskers to sense the movements around them. At night, they slowly crawl out, looking for dead fish, small crustaceans or weaker creatures to eat. When they smell the bait in the iron trap, they crawl in and cannot escape due to the sophisticated one-way structure. This helps fishermen catch large quantities while ensuring that the marine environment is not destroyed like other fishing methods. However, this profession also has unpredictable challenges. There are times when the storm suddenly rises. The anchor rope breaks. Dozens of traps sink to the seabed, meaning thousands of dollars go down the drain. Sometimes lobsters are less visible due to changes in water currents or temperature, causing a serious drop in production. Some people even have to dive deep to remove stuck traps, facing enormous water pressure and danger from sharks or other large creatures. But through it all, fishermen still do not give up their job. They say that when they see healthy lobsters struggling in the cage, hear the sound of the seawater lapping against the side of the boat and inhale the salty smell of the offshore wind, all the hardships disappear. It is a simple but powerful joy, a worthy reward for a challenging life in the middle of the ocean. And so, the journey of hunting and trapping lobsters continues, day after day, like an endless rhythm of life for people attached to the sea during the peak season. When the seawater reaches the ideal cold temperature and food sources are abundant, lobsters reproduce strongly and are more active, which is also the time when fishermen have to take advantage of every hour to set traps. The scene in the early morning at the port is special, dozens of ships leaving the port one after another. The sound of engines roaring, the smell of engine oil mixed with the salty sea air, and the tanned faces of the men full of determination. They understand that a favorable day can bring in a fortune, but an unlucky day is enough to make all the effort go down the drain. When the ships reach the hunting area, everyone begins to divide the work. Some set the traps, some record the coordinates, some prepare the bait and check the anchor ropes. Each trap weighing dozens of kilograms is pushed into the water by a pulley system. the sound of metal hitting each other echoing among the waves. Colorful buoys are floated on the sea surface to mark the location of each row of traps. Under the cold water, they gradually sink to the bottom, lying still among the rocks and seaweed, waiting for uninvited guests, curious and aggressive lobsters. After many hours at sea, the ship anchors and waits. The fishermen take the opportunity to eat, rest or mend their nets. But their minds are always focused on the traps deep under the sea. When the time comes, they start the engine and begin to reel in the rope. This work is extremely hard because each trap can weigh more than 50 kilograms. And when full of lobsters, it weighs twice as much. Each trap is pulled up amid cheers. When inside there are lobsters as big as an adult's arm, their shells shining red-brown in the sunlight. Sometimes, they also catch other species such as stone crabs, eels or octopuses, creatures attracted by the smell of the bait and fall into the net. After collecting all the traps, the captain orders to return to shore. But the work is not yet finished. On the way back, they have to change the bait, remove the traps, clean up the old fish and prepare for the next trip. The fisherman's rough, calloused hands are covered with fish scales and scratches, but they just smile, because that is the sign of a full day of work. When the ship docks, locals flock to see and buy fresh lobsters on the spot, while traders quickly weigh and pack them in cold boxes to ship everywhere. Fresh lobsters from the sea are brought to restaurants, where chefs prepare them into luxurious dishes, lobster grilled with garlic butter, steamed with beer, or eaten raw as sashimi. However, few people know that to get these delicious dishes, there is a lot of sweat, effort and danger far out at sea. Lobster hunting not only requires health but also a passion for the sea, a connection between humans and nature. Even with the support of machines, experience is still the most valuable thing that helps them survive. Newcomers must learn to read the waves, feel the wind, and even predict the weather based on the color of the sky and the smell of the sea salt. Each time they set sail, it is a gamble with nature, but for them, it is life, the blood, the breath of a traditional profession that has existed for many generations. At night, when the harbor is quiet, with only the sound of gentle waves lapping against the ship, the fishermen are still awake, sitting mending torn nets, replacing broken iron hooks on traps, and chatting about tomorrow's trip. The yellow light shines on their tanned faces, their deep eyes reflecting the pride of those who make a living from the sea. They tell each other about the times they encountered unexpected tsunamis, the traps that were swept away by the current, or the giant lobsters weighing more than 10 kilos that made the whole ship cheer. Despite the hardships, they still do not give up their job, because for them, the sea is home. It is their flesh and blood. Many people have followed their fathers to sea since childhood, learned to read the tides, learned to recognize the location of reefs, and felt the slightest change in the wind. Such knowledge is not recorded in any books, but can only be passed on through words, through years of practical experience on the water. The next morning, as the sun rose above the horizon, the first light of the new day shone on the sparkling sea. They prepared to set sail again. The sound of the ship's engine roared. The metallic clang of traps being loaded onto the deck. The smell of fresh fish spread in the salty air. A new voyage had begun. And hope was rekindled in each person's heart. Lobster trapping was not just a job, but a life cycle between humans and the sea. The sea nurtured them, tested them, and sometimes took away the people they loved. There were fathers who did not return after a fierce storm. Friends who went missing in the dark night in the middle of the ocean. But the job continued. Like a promise between one generation and the next. They believed that as long as there was sea, and lobsters hiding under the reefs, they would still have hope. Still have a reason to set sail. Every time they catch a full catch of lobsters, they feel like they are conquering the ocean itself. But at the same time they know that they are just small travelers before the immense power of nature. The lobsters, after being brought to shore, will continue their journey to the hands of chefs, to become premium dishes. But their stories are still closely linked to the lives of fishermen. There, amidst the sound of waves and the smell of the sea breeze, men and women still work silently, preserving a traditional profession not only for food and clothing, but also for pride, the pride of living with the sea, conquering the sea and respecting what the sea gives. And no matter how modern technology becomes in the future, machines can replace humans in many stages. The profession of trapping lobsters will always be a symbol of perseverance, strength and immortal love for the sea on rough days. When the waves are high and the winds are strong, coastal residents often advise each other not to go out to sea. But for fishermen who make a living by setting lobster traps, resting for too long means losing a valuable source of income. They still go out, even though they know that the challenge ahead is full of dangers. Each small boat sways between the white-capped waves. The deck is soaked with sea water. The trap rope is wrapped around their hands. The boys drift in the rough sea. Those men have to hold on to the rope tightly, keep their balance with each step, because if they slip, they can be swept away in the blink of an eye. But it is in such harsh circumstances that their true bravery is most clearly shown. They understand each wind, each current, know when to drop anchor, when to turn around, and always keep the boat steady in the storm. When the storm passes and the sea is calm again, they return to their old positions, looking for lost traps, sometimes pulling them up to find only bare iron frames covered with moss. But they still persevere. Because each remaining trap is a precious asset, the result of sweat, effort and courage. Sometimes, in the middle of the vast ocean, they encounter strange creatures, sharks gliding past the side of the ship, giant sea turtles emerging to breathe, or schools of small fish swimming in shimmering silver strips under the sunlight. Those moments make them feel closer to the ocean than ever, as if they are one with the vast nature. For them, lobster trapping is not just work, but also the art of living. Each lobster season is a new cycle. Each wave is a new lesson. When winter comes, the water is cold. Lobsters move deeper. Hunting becomes more difficult. But the fishermen still do not give up. They changed their tactics, adjusted the depth of their traps, and used more suitable bait to attract lobsters in harsh conditions. When spring came, when the water gradually warmed up, the lobsters thrived. And that was when they were rewarded. The thick batches of lobsters, with shiny shells and large, strong claws, brought great profits to the entire fishing village. Laughter filled the harbor. Children ran around the boats, and adults hurriedly transferred goods. Weighed and recorded. Coastal life revived, as fresh as the salty breath of the ocean. And when night fell, the lights at the wharf were still bright, illuminating the figures of tireless people, those who have, are and will continue to devote their lives to lobster trapping, as a testament to the resilience and the bond between humans and the endless ocean. When summer comes, the sea becomes gentler, the waves are calmer and the sky is clear. It is the most ideal time for lobster hunting trips. Small boats bobbed in the clear blue water. Buoys floating in long lines stretching far into the horizon. The sunlight reflected on the sea surface glittered like silver. And in that space, the laughter of fishermen echoed, mingling with the sound of seagulls soaring high above. This was the season that most fishermen were looking forward to, because the lobster yield was abundant at this time, and the selling price was higher than usual. Every time they pulled up a heavy trap, they shouted with joy. The lobsters were big and strong, with hard shiny shells, long antennae and large claws, wriggling vigorously when lifted out of the water. That feeling, the feeling of victory when seeing the results after many days of sun and rain, was an indescribable happiness for those working at sea. After being classified, the qualified lobsters were immediately put into tanks of cold sea water to keep them fresh. The workers carefully closed the lid, tied the rope tightly, and then gradually moved them down to the ship's hold. Every operation is quick and precise, because they understand that just a little carelessness can cause the lobster to be injured or die, significantly reducing its value. There are elderly fishermen with grey hair who still work hard with their children and grandchildren at sea. They are not only laborers, but also those who pass on their profession, teaching the next generation how to look at the sea, how to feel the current, and most importantly, how to respect nature. They always remind, don't catch baby lobsters. Don't take too many, because if the sea dries up, this profession will also disappear. It is this spirit that has helped the lobster trapping profession survive sustainably for decades. In coastal fishing villages, each lobster season is a real festival. The seaport is crowded. Traders are bustling. Refrigerated trucks line up. And the smell of fresh seafood permeates the air. Everyone is radiant. Because a bumper crop means a prosperous year. Children ran around the yard drying nets. The elderly sat sipping tea, recounting old sea voyages when they rowed wooden boats. Without modern machinery like today. Although times have changed, the love of the sea and pride in the traditional craft still burn in everyone's heart. When the sun gradually disappeared behind the horizon, the port became quiet again. There was only the sound of the sea breeze blowing, the sound of waves lapping against the rocks, and the dim lights of the ships anchored for a rest. Tomorrow, when dawn breaks, the journey begins again. The children of the sea carry hope. Set sail again. Continue the work of hunting and trapping lobsters. Continuing the eternal rhythm of life of the fishing villages along the ocean.